The Gore and Zeichner model of reflective practice is another critical model to just briefly consider. What they suggest is that there are four major aspects of the work of the teacher, of professional work. And what they say is therefore that the teacher needs to ask and reflect on particular questions in relation to these four aspects. What the purpose of this is for the teacher to gain a thorough, whole and holistic understanding of their teaching and their role in teaching and their role in the classroom. And the four components are very clear. The first component is an academic reflection, and there are certain questions that the teacher can ask themselves in relation to academic reflection. Do I know my content really well, for example? Am I using the right strategies for teaching? Am I organized for my lessons? These are all focusing on the professional role from a very technical and very practical point of view. Other questions that can be asked are about the sequencing of the content. Was the lesson at the right sort of pace for the students? Was it too fast or was it too slow? And also it's useful to think of this aspect of the model in terms of how creative or innovative you're being in the classroom. Are you trying out new approaches, not only to excite your students, but to excite yourself? Or are you just going through a routine? So it's good to reflect on the academic aspect. They also talk about the developmental reflection. Am I providing teaching and learning contexts which give students chance to develop their own perspectives on their learning? I like to think of this part of the model in terms of how well the teacher is helping the students learn how to learn. And for me, that's a very significant part of being a teacher in the classroom. And some more questions to ask in terms of the developmental reflection. Have I evaluated the students' skills and their thinking sufficiently so that you can actually determine how much they are learning? And what about changes to the instructional approaches? You can reflect on that, try things out. Can you extend the use of a particular approach? Have I designed teaching and learning activities for individuals as well as groups? And if, for example, you're using group work, how are the students learning in a group and how are they supporting each other, or how are they contradicting each other? And perhaps the most complex aspect of this model is the critical reflection or the social reconstructionist approach. This takes a very much more holistic view of reflective practice, actually looking at what the teacher believes about teaching and what the purpose of education is, what the value of education is in society. And so questions you can ask are things like, do I have particular beliefs and values about teaching which will affect the technical approach that I take in the class? Have I critically evaluated certain aspects of teaching from the school perspective, and how do you articulate those, and who helps you articulate those? Have I considered who determines the curriculum, and what does that mean in terms of how you teach and how the students are learning, and indeed what they're learning? Have I considered in what ways the curriculum supports or neglects individuals and individual learning needs? This is taking you beyond just pure description and is being very critical about the imposing factors that can affect you as a teacher and affect the students as learners. Are there ways in which I can implement components of the curriculum or different curricula in the school in a more unique and innovative way? So you're actually meeting the needs of both worlds, both the school, the education system, but also the individual learning needs. How can I overcome shortcomings or problems with particular systems in schools or particular issues in curricula, and therefore make teaching and learning a much more interesting and creative process? Have I analysed the assessment processes? Maybe, compulsory tests. Are they really testing learning, or is it just about testing memory? There are some fundamental questions for the teacher to ask here from this broader critical perspective about their role as a teacher.